Welcome to Unbusy On Purpose, the podcast for small business owners who are over the hustle, the overwhelm, and that constant pressure to always be doing more. If your business feels like it's running you instead of the other way around, consider this your wake-up call. Here, we're going to slow it down, cut through the chaos, and actually take back control. I'm your host, Lucy Carter, and I'll be sharing real stories to help you feel less alone and practical tips that won't scramble your brain even more than it already is. Every week, I'll be here to remind you that by reconnecting with yourself, focusing on what really matters, and taking aligned action, you can have a business that fuels your life instead of draining it. No fluff, no guilt, just straight up guidance to help you feel confident, in control, and actually enjoy the ride of small business ownership. So go grab your coffee or your wine, there's no judgment here. Take a deep breath and finally give yourself permission to do business your way. Hello, gorgeous people, and welcome back to Unbusy On Purpose. If you aren't aware that this podcast I've created, I always want it to be very real, raw, and honest. I am always going to be sharing things that I am learning or going through as I go through them, and I want to share that with you so it can really keep that organic, I don't know, an organic, authentic, I hate the word authentic, it's like overused, but that authenticity with it. And hopefully by seeing and hearing what I'm going through, and when I have guests on what they're going through, it can feel really relatable and you don't feel alone and lost and, on this journey we call life and business. So today, I really want to talk about anxiety, and the reason why is because of something that happened to me this week. If you saw my story post about it on Instagram, then you would kind of have an inkling as to what happened this week. So as I said, very, very real, raw, honest, like this literally happened to me on Monday. So yeah, kind of living with me through it. You know what I'm trying to say. You're going through it with me as I live it. So yeah, I want to talk about anxiety and not, I'm not going to tell you how to do things or preach or anything like that. I will give you my version of events, and I will also give you how I handled it. And if that resonates, then awesome. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Okay. So yeah, anxiety. This kind of crept up on me when I thought I had a handle on things. And, I thought I've done the therapy, I've done all the things to kind of help me move past this. I thought we were past this, Lucy. And clearly I fucking wasn't. Because, like I said, recently anxiety crept up on me in a way I just didn't really expect. I mean, you're never really expecting it, but I just thought I'd kind of got a grip on these things. Like I've been going to therapy for the last, I don't know, 7 months, and it's really, really helped. And like I feel so much better than the first time I walked through the door of my therapist. So I did a lot of work on the stuff that happened with my partner, Stefan. For those of you who don't know, he had 8 months ago, he had a cardiac arrest, out of hospital cardiac arrest, died twice. And yeah, miraculously, he's still here to tell the tale. And yeah, that's great. Fucking fly. Oh my God. Summer in Australia, guys. Look, you're worrying about snakes and all that shit. You got to worry about the flies. They're annoying. Anyway, I digress. So basically, my partner who had a cardiac arrest 8 months ago had to have a stent surgery on Monday. This was booked in a little while ago and before Christmas, actually. And so it's been a bit of a lead up. And to be honest, like I didn't really kind of label the build-up of it all as anxiety at first. Like it was on my mind, and it's like a stressful kind of situation. But I wasn't like constantly feeling stressed about it, if that makes sense. But obviously that background noise was kind of always there. And then as the days got nearer, I could slowly start to feel something going on, and I was just like, oh, it's fine, like he'll be fine. And then Monday came and we go to the hospital. and all was kind of good. The doctor comes around and discusses, like, the risks and stuff. And obviously with any surgery, and especially one on your heart, like, there's risks. And I knew this, but like hearing it out loud, like, was not cool, and it didn't feel great. And I was just like, oh, okay. But again, Stefan was still there physically. I could see him. He was next to me. And I just kind of was like, yeah, cool. All right. That's a bit scary, but hey ho, he's got to get this done. And then he goes down for surgery, and I saw him getting wheeled into the room, and I was just like, okay, now I'm on my own. Right. So I thought, right, I'm gonna just get out of the hospital and go for a walk. So that's what I did. However, on my walk, I had some really, really dark thoughts, and they just kind of just popping into my head. Not at first though, which was weird. I was fine at first, and then I was on the way back to the hospital. I was like, had this like dark thought, but then I couldn't differentiate it from being a gut feeling or just a dark thought. And that's what scared me, because when the whole incident happened 8 months ago, just before I got the phone call from the hospital, I actually had this really like awful dark thought feeling. And then obviously the worst thing that I thought of fucking came true. So that kind of feeling happened again, and I was like, no, don't think about it. And it was so, in that moment, I just felt really kind of not disappointed in myself, but I suppose there was a sense of disappointment, but more frustration, and confused because I didn't know whether I could trust my gut in this moment. And I didn't know if it was a gut feeling or whether it was just my anxiety going crazy and my mind playing tricks on me. And yeah, it just kind of spiraled, and I just thought, fuck, why is this happening again? Like, I thought I've done the work. Like, oh my God. And I just felt so like, yeah, I just felt like all the work I've done kind of just got undone in that moment, and I was just feeling a bit shit about it, and it was spiraling. I got back to the hospital and messaged my cousin and my sister, and like had conversations, and she was taking me down off the ledge and stuff like that, which was really helpful. Probably having 2 coffees that day did not help the situation at all. So Julie noted, if I have to do something like that next time, no coffee in the mornings, or till after he gets out. So yeah, that's what I went through. And as soon as I got the message that he was out, I was like, oh, thank fuck for that. And everything kind of just subsided. But I think the gear up and the lead up to everything, and the emotional fucking roller coaster I went on throughout the day when he was down in surgery, was just like, it took a lot out of me. And yeah, the next day I was just so exhausted. Like, I was just like, oh my God. Like, and I think my nervous system was just so on edge. And so beaten up by that whole, my anxiety being just through the roof. Yeah, it took its toll on me, and I was very fucking glad that only, 2 days later I've had a therapy session, and I literally had that today. We're on Wednesday now. Wednesday? Yeah, we're on Wednesday, which was really helpful. So very much encourage anyone going through trauma, grief, or just, difficult times in their life. Therapy is honestly been a life changer, game changer for me. Anyway, I had therapy today, and I was talking to her about it and saying like how I felt like, oh fuck, I thought I had a grip on this, like, and I clearly don't. And she said, well, you do, because you actually did all the right things in that moment. Like, and at the end of the day, when you've gone through something very stressful and traumatic, and you're going through something sort of similar with, someone that you love and care about, of course you're going to feel anxious. Of course those feelings are going to come up, and that's your body actually just doing what it needs to do. All right, it's not helpful, right? But it's in that primal safety kind of mode. It's just like trying to protect you, right? Your body is doing its thing to try and protect you from harm. It's the thought, the perceived threat of, someone you love or yourself getting hurt or, something bad happening. And when someone's down in surgery, you have no one's keeping you updated. You're not seeing it happen in real time, so you can't know what's going on, and it's that unknown that really kind of like just set me off. And she said, "Look, this is all very, very normal. Don't feel like you've taken steps backward because you actually did the right things." And the build up to it all, like, doesn't always feel like this dramatic thing. Because I thought, where the fuck has this come from? But obviously, it was the lead up that kind of was the anticipation of it. And even though it wasn't like really dramatic, sometimes stress can just be quite quiet and it's quite accumulative and it builds over time. And then obviously, your body reacts to that before your logic catches up. And when I really think about it, like, that anxiety showing up for me, it kind of made sense because it wasn't, it's as surprising as it kind of felt like, oh, okay, I'm actually dealing with this shit again. Like, why? Like, what the fuck? Um, it's not surprising when you actually look at the bigger picture and go, ah, yeah, it's pretty reasonable as to why I felt like that. But in the moment, you feel, anxiety makes you feel out of control of your own body, out of your own mind. As much as you try and like kind of settle it down, it just creeps back up. It creeps back in. At the time, it didn't make sense, but now I'm looking back on it, and obviously speaking to my therapist, it's like, oh fuck, yeah, of course I felt that way. I don't want to tell you what to do, but I would love to kind of just um share like the things I did, and I didn't do them kind of like, this is a strategy and this is what I need to be doing. Like, I didn't have a list there to go through. It just organically happened. And I think that's just like the way I deal with things anyway, which is obviously a healthy thing. But if this helps you, then by all means, if you're ever in a stressful situation where you feel like your anxiety is kind of getting a little bit out of control, then do these things if you feel like it's going to help. So one of the things, like I said, I went for a walk, I moved my body. So I let the energy kind of move instead of like keeping it trapped. And at first, like I said, like, I went on this walk, I felt all right, didn't feel like too bad at this point. Yes, thoughts were kind of popping in, but not super, super dark thoughts. Um, and then as soon as those super dark thoughts came in and I'd got back to the hospital and then went back downstairs to where the cafes were, and I was sat there and I was like, right, I just need to tell someone how I'm feeling. So I messaged my group chat to my sister and my cousin, just even someone saying like, this is normal, it's routine, like, don't, of course you're going to be worried, like, it's not nice, kind of sitting there and waiting for something like this, but he'll be fine, he'll be fine. And all the while, like, yes, logically, I knew he was probably going to be fine, but emotionally, I mean, actually, logically, you don't know something's going to be fine, to be fair. Anything can happen, but, emotionally, I was like, this doesn't feel good, I don't like it. But having someone to kind of just voice that to, and so you don't feel like you're going fucking nuts, was really helpful. So I didn't isolate myself. I reached out to someone. So that's a super helpful way of doing things when you're ever feeling like you're sort of spiraling. And again, this doesn't have to be like, loved one going into surgery or grief or anything like that, or from a traumatic experience. It could just be like, you're anxious because you're starting a new business. You're anxious because you're going for a breast scan. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like any time you're sort of feeling yourself get out of control with anxiety, then, maybe do these things. I don't know, might help you, because it did help me. Like, although it was still happening, I did manage it. It didn't get to the point where I was having a panic attack like I used to get panic attacks before. So on top of that, I ended up like getting myself to a point where I was like feeling like I needed to cry. But obviously I was in a fucking hallway of a hospital and I was like, oh, I don't want to cry in front of people. But in the end, I was like, fuck it, like, I just need to let it out. So I allowed myself to feel the feelings and release it by crying. I don't know, or go stand in a field and scream if there's a field nearby, whatever you need to do. Mine was just crying. And, I did feel a bit better after that, and it did kind of calm me down. And then I also had some distractions. So either, do some work if that feels right, or journal if that feels right. But for me, I just watched something quite easy watching on YouTube or Netflix or whatever. So I watched something to kind of take my mind off it, and that helped for periods of time, and I calmed down and I could feel things getting calm. But then all of a sudden something would come in again and the panic would set in. Um, so having a distraction is really necessary in those kinds of situations, and you might see it as avoidance, but it's not avoidance in those moments. Like, as long as you are feeling the feels and releasing and doing all of that stuff, like, it's just actually regulation. I did do a bit of breathing as well, but I probably should have done more of that, and that's probably something I will do more of if this situation like this ever happens again, because I know breathwork really helps me kind of calm my nervous system. So, whether it is watching something or whether it is sitting and doing a meditation or breath work, like, just getting your mind to focus on your breath or focus on something on a screen, like, if you have to, like, that is something that was helping me. So yeah, that kind of helped me. And I think what I would do also next time is have someone there with me, not like the whole day because it was a fucking long day, but if I have to do something like that again, like, have someone come with me or meet me for lunch or something. I would get them to come to the hospital or whatever. Or if it's something like going to a doctor's appointment that's going to be a little bit, it feels scary, take someone with you. Or it could be that you've got a job interview, like I said, like, and you just, you're freaking out and you're stressing out and you're doubting yourself, or or you've got a meeting with someone important, like, whatever it is. Like, go for coffee with someone beforehand, maybe not coffee. Go for I don't know, chai latte before, and talk with your friend or your family member, or, in the morning before you go, sit down with your husband or your wife and just kind of explain how you're feeling. Don't bottle it up, because I think when we suppress it, that's when it actually becomes a lot worse as well. When we feel these things, when we're going through something quite stressful and anxiety does arise, like, we can kind of feel like we're weakened, and it's not a sign of weakness. We haven't lost our strength because we feel anxious about something. Um, it's just it's just the signs that your nervous system is still healing, right? Even though we might feel like we've been healed, when you're going through something stressful, and it could be not even in alignment with what you're stressed about, right? The triggering thing might be from something completely different, but it's sort of spiraling into whatever is happening now, if that makes sense. So it's just understanding why it happens and where it comes from, and being able to manage it and navigate it as it's happening. And don't feel guilty, or not guilty. Don't feel like, you've kind of lost your strength when it comes to being able to cope with a stressful situation, because sometimes it just rears its ugly head. I might do that again and be fine. But who knows? But I think now I've got the understanding where I'm like, okay, it's actually quite normal for me to feel like this. I'm not a fucking failure. I haven't undone all the hard work. As sort of high capacity women, people that take on a lot and just keep doing, and, we just go, 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 and um have a lot of tabs open and things like that. Like, we are especially good at just pushing through, aren't we? Like, we just push through and don't really ask for help. And um but really, that's your body. Anxiety is your body's way of just sort of asking for safety and not silence. So don't suppress it. You've got to make it feel safe by helping yourself, by doing things to kind of calm it down. We just kind of keep going until your body's just like, fuck you, doesn't it? So I think that's essentially what happened. So now you understand it, and now I understand more about it. It's definitely going to help me, and I've no, especially after my therapy session today and talking to my counselor about it. It's like, okay, like I get it. It's not that bad. It doesn't feel good at the time, but it's not that bad. It's just my body's way of trying to protect me. And I just want to kind of, I suppose, remind you that if anxiety has shown up for you recently, if you have had something happen to you where you're like, "Oh, fuck, why has this come up again? Like, I thought I was good, or I thought I had things handled." Like, you haven't failed, and you do have things handled, or maybe this is your awakening to get things handled. Yeah. You haven't undone your healing if you feel like, fuck, I thought I was healed from this. And you're not broken. Like, you're not broken, and healing doesn't stop. It doesn't end. It doesn't finish, right? Like, we can definitely feel more in control and help ourselves feel more in control of certain situations, or we can not live with them on a daily basis. But when you've gone through something quite big and dramatic, like, it's never going to stop. Like, and that's something I've really learned today, and kind of like a light bulb moment feel was like, this isn't like, I hate to break it to you, but this isn't going to end. Like, when something like this happens, it is going to come up for you. But what is happening now is I'm learning to manage it a little bit better. And it's not fully taking over my life, because, even though I feel like there was probably quiet anxiety happening for the lead up to it, it wasn't like disrupting my life like it was before, or like it would have been if I hadn't have had the therapy and done the work and all of that stuff. So yeah, just know that you're not broken. You have healed certain areas of that situation, or of that thought, or of that limiting belief, or whatever, right? You've healed a part of it, and that's always going to be with you, but something is always going to come up and maybe trigger that again, unexpectedly. So sometimes anxiety isn't a step backwards. It's actually just your nervous system asking to be nurtured in that moment. Yeah. I hope this is making sense. I always say this on my podcast because I feel like I kind of ramble a little bit, but hopefully it's making sense. If this episode has resonated with you, if this is something you're like, oh, fuck, I needed to hear this today, I just want you to do one thing right now, and just place your hand or your hands on your heart, close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and breathe out. And do that a couple of times if you need to. And I just want you to remind yourself, whatever version of that is of you, that you are safe right now. Because that's all we need in those moments, is to know we're safe. Yeah. So I hope this has resonated. I hope this has helped. And if you know someone who needs to hear this today, or any other day, then please send it to them, because, they're probably doing better than they actually think. But in the moment, it's really hard to kind of feel that way. So as per usual, please leave a comment on this podcast if it has resonated. Whatever your takeaways are, please like, subscribe, because this helps push my episodes and my podcast out to more of you lovely people who need these conversations. And yeah, I've got some exciting things coming up, actually. Do I share? Do I not share? No, I'm going to share. I'm not going to fully go into detail, but I don't know if you remember from my first episode, I did mention that I would love to potentially have guests on my podcast. So it's not just me taking over the screen. And yeah, this is going to be happening sooner than I expected. So stay tuned. February is going to be a lot of that kind of stuff, and getting some guests on that are really going to help people like you to kind of navigate these situations in a healthy, what's the word I'm trying to use here? Like a non-difficult way. Just like, I don't want to confuse your brain more than it, my brain's obviously confused, more than it already is, because if you are sitting here in anxiety, if you are going through something quite hard, and stressful, you're just feeling fully overwhelmed by life, work, business, whatever, then it's like the last thing you need is more things to do, right? So yes, of course, we're always going to share tips and strategies and things like that, but it's never going to be something that's just going to overwhelm the system even more than it's overwhelmed. It's just going to be very straightforward, much like what I've kind of shared with you today. Hopefully that feels like that. I think everyone can sit there and watch Netflix to distract themselves if they're feeling anxious, or, pick up the phone to a friend. It's very straightforward stuff that sometimes we overlook when we're in those feelings and in our heads, because sometimes you don't want to pick up the phone or text a friend because you feel like a burden or you feel silly. You're not. So do it. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but do it. So yeah, it's always going to be very simple strategies, simple being the operative word. Okay, well, that's enough for me today. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Again, like, subscribe, follow, share the love. And I will see you on the next one. Mwah. Much love, guys. Have a lovely rest of your week.